Before you close your eyes tonight, there's something you ought to know. These mountains, they keep secrets. Inbred bloodlines, forgotten abuse, families swallowed by silence.
Shh. Listen. That drip is older than your heartbeat. It's been counting the years since the sun last touched certain faces. In the hollers of eastern Kentucky, folks say every ridge keeps one family that should have died out with the chestnut trees, one bloodline the mountains decided to swallow instead of bury. Tonight, you're going to meet 'em. In the dead winter of 1934, Enoch Whitaker swung a pickaxe into another man's skull for $40 and a woman who moaned his name in the dark. The gallows were already building, but Enoch looked at his 7 pale children, at their eyes the color of creek ice, and he made a choice colder than any rope. He took 'em by their thin wrists and walked 'em down a sinkhole the locals only ever spoke of in warnings. 7 small sets of footprints going in, none coming out, not in the way you're thinking. That was last year. That hand had never seen daylight, yet it knew exactly where the camera was. Murderer and children vanish into Wolf Creek Sink. They searched for weeks, found the cabin stripped bare, the fire still warm, a rag doll on the table with its button eyes gouged out and something dark soaking its belly. If you're still here, if the dark hasn't already crawled under your skin, then you're ready. You feel it, don't you? That pull like cold fingers around your ankle. Welcome to Underbelly Bloodline. We don't dig up graves here. We follow the ones who never needed burying. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Listen closer. The voice isn't above you. It's under the floorboards, under your feet, under your blood. And it knows your name.
Come here, closer. Let me show you the Whitakers before the mountain decided they belonged to it. See that tall man leaning on the porch post? That's Enoch, beard so black it drinks the light, arms rope thick from wrestling hogs and sin in equal measure. Folks swore when he stared at you it felt like stepping into cold well water, sudden, breathless, too deep to touch bottom. His eyes weren't brown or blue. They were the color of creeped stone after the water's been running over bones for 100 years. Count them, 7 mouths that never quite learned how to smile the same. The oldest boy's hand rests on his sister's shoulder, like he's holding her down, not holding her up. And there, little Delpha, barely 5, clutching that rag doll so tight the seams are weeping. Someone tore the button eyes out long ago. She never asked for new ones. She told her mama the doll could see better in the dark that way. The preacher came when Enoch's wife, Cora, started coughing up black flowers of blood. He prayed over her for an hour, Bible trembling in his hands. When he stepped back outside, the sun was shining, same as always, but he was soaked through with sweat and shaken like a dog that hears thunder miles off. He only ever said one thing about that house. It smelled like the inside of a grave that hadn't decided who to bury yet. 3 mornings later, they found Enoch's neighbor folded into the pig pen, face pulped to red ruin, pickaxe still buried in what used to be a mouth. The Whitaker cabin sat silent, door hanging open like a scream that gave up. Inside, every stick of furniture gone, every footprint leading away toward the ridge. Only one thing waited on the table, Delpha's rag doll, belly sliced open, soaking in a puddle of blood that steamed in the cold. The blood was still warm, and it didn't belong to the dead man in the pig pen. It belonged to someone who hadn't been born yet.
You ever feel watched when you're alone in the woods? Not by bears, not by men. By something that learned patience the way stone learns water. I've run these ridges since I could carry a .22. I can smell a buck 2 hollows off, hear a squirrel lie about where he buried his nuts. But there's one draw near Wolf Creek where the birds go quiet, and the hair on my dog stands up like he's staring at God's backside. I won't hunt there after the sun drops, because whatever's down in that ground, it hunts louder. Spring of 1936. Posses with bloodhounds and coal oil lanterns followed 7 sets of bare childish feet to the lip of a sinkhole everybody called Hell's Asshole for reasons that should have stayed obvious. The dogs hit that rim and tucked tails so hard they pissed themselves. Tracks went straight over the edge and down a limestone throat that swallowed Moonline whole. Then the prints just stopped. But higher up the wall, fresh handprints, fingers too long, palms too narrow, climbed vertical rock like a spider climbing glass. Up into nothing. Observed pale human-like shapes retreating deeper into passage. Fired 3 rounds .38 caliber. Shapes did not flinch, did not hasten, simply continued walking backwards into darkness. Recommend immediate dynamiting of entrance. They voted. They argued. They never sealed it. 63 years later, a government surveyor rappelling that same shaft for new maps found something pressed into century-old mud. A single child's shoe print, heel and toes perfect, facing the wrong direction. As if whatever wore that shoe had just stepped out of the wall and was already walking toward you.
Feel that. The air just turned from cool to cold enough to bite the back of your throat. That's the cave tasting you. To know the Whitakers, you have to walk where their shadows still walk. Past the last place daylight ever apologizes. Past the sleeping bats hanging like rotten fruit. Into the country where sound itself gets lost and comes back older. The deeper you drop, the more the stone starts to feel used. Not empty, occupied. You start noticing arrangements, deer ribs stacked like firewood, skulls arranged in perfect spirals, tiny finger bones braided into the roots that hang from the ceiling like pale ivy. Keep going. The passage narrows until your shoulders kiss both walls. The air goes thick, metallic, the way it smells right before lightning. Your breath fogs even though it's 50 degrees. 9 inches. That fissure was measured at 9 inches wide. Whatever just used it for a doorway learned to fold itself the way paper learns fire. Turn around slowly. The way back just got longer than the way forward, and something small is already following the warmth you brought down with you.
My granddaddy was the only soul Enoch trusted that night. Said Enoch stood at the cave mouth with a coal oil lantern, beard full of frost, eyes already looking like holes burned in a sheet. He handed my granddaddy the 2 smallest young'uns, one under each arm like sacks of corn, and spoke just once. "The Lord shaped daylight for the clean," he said. "We lost the privilege, so we're taking the young'uns where grace can't follow." Then he walked backward into the dark so the children wouldn't see fear on his face. 2019 University of Kentucky Forensic Report. Mitochondrial DNA recovered from calcite scrapings 1.7 kilometers inside the restricted passage. 27 distinct profiles. All male lines collapse to a single patriarch, Enoch Whitaker, born 1894. All maternal lines originate with 2 females, Ruth Whitaker, B. 1919, and Miriam Whitaker, B. 1922, Enoch's own daughters. They didn't just hide, they multiplied. In the dark, they chose each other because there was no one else left to choose. But the mother line, the sacred, unbroken thread passed only from woman to child, it runs true from Ruth and Miriam until the winter of 1963. Then it fractures. The sequence mutates in ways no geneticist can explain without whispering the word impossible. After 1963, the mitochondrial signature is no longer recognizably primate. Something that was never born under open sky started giving birth in their place. The cave didn't punish the Whitakers. It adopted them, rewrote them, kept the blood warm when the sun was gone too long. And when the blood finally ran out of human mothers, the cave simply provided its own. You're not listening to a story anymore. You're listening to a lullaby, sung by something that still remembers your name and no longer needs light to see you.
Listen. Every 25 years, the mountain gets hungry the way clocks get hungry for midnight. A hiker chasing waterfalls. A moonshiner hiding from revenue men. 2 teenagers fogging up car windows with promises they'll never keep. Their names hit the papers, then the milk cartons, then the wind. Their cars sit cold on the pull-off, keys still in the ignition, radios playing to empty seats. But the screams, the cave drinks those first. People learned. They started leaving gifts at the lip of the sinkhole, the way you leave milk for a cat you never want inside the house. Mason jars of peach preserves thick as sin. Packs of unfiltered Camels, tiny lace-up shoes no bigger than your palm. By morning, the jars are licked clean, lids spun back on polite. The cigarettes gone without a single ash. The shoes returned weeks later, soles worn to tissue, laces knotted and reknotted by fingers that never learned bows. They're not bribes. They're rent. The spelunker's voice cracks. Jesus, Mary, and all the saints. His light lands on 7 smooth river stones arranged in a perfect circle, the way the 7 Whitaker children once stood for that photograph nobody smiled in. In the center sits a single Polaroid, edges curled like burned paper. He picks it up with shaking fingers. It's him, standing in his own kitchen 2 years before he ever thought of caves, taken from behind while he buttered toast on a Tuesday morning. On the white border, scratched deep with something sharp, "We've been waiting." The mountain doesn't take strangers anymore. It takes invitations, and it always photographs you first, so you'll recognize yourself when you finally come home wearing someone else's skin.
Old woman, voice like dry leaves rubbed together. Come sit, I won't bite, not anymore. They wrote on my little stone cross that Delta Whitaker passed of the fever in 38. Sweet lie, prettier than the truth. I was 5 when Papa carried me down the sinkhole in his arms like a bride. I remember the sun on his beard for the last time, bright as judgment, then gone. After that, only lantern glow and the wet breathing of stone. I lived, God help me, I lived, long enough to feel my brother's hands shaking when he unbuttoned my dress in the dark, long enough to push a baby out between my legs that never cried, only opened eyes the color of moon on cave water, and stared straight up like it was remembering something I'd already forgotten. This got wedged behind a flowstone in 81, my own handwriting, though the arthritis hadn't found me yet. She unrolls it slowly, as if it might bite. If you are reading this, you are too late. The cave is a womb now. We are what it birthed instead of people. There is no sin here, only hunger. There is no death here, only changing. Tell the sun we don't miss it. It never knew our names anyway. You want to judge us. I see it on your face. Same look the preacher wore the day he smelled the grave in our house. But tell me, child, when does running from the rope stop being cowardice and start being the only mercy a father can still give his babies? When does hiding from the light turn into being born into something truer? We didn't fall, darling. We were welcomed. And the cave, it's still in labor. Now, blow out the candle. Some truths only look back when the dark lets them.
Shh! Don't move. They're listening to your pulse right now. 2021. The government finally poured 3 feet of concrete across the mouth that swallowed Enoch and his children. Steel rebar thick as a man's wrist. Warning signs in 3 languages. Motion sensors. They called it closure. 3 nights later, a ranger found the night watchman sitting cross-legged against the fresh slab, hair gone white as cave fungus, rocking like a child who lost his mother in a crowd that never existed. He wouldn't blink, wouldn't drink, only rocked and whispered the same sentence until his tongue bled. They just opened another door. They just opened another door. Look close. See how they flow together, separate, flow again, one mind wearing many bodies. Concrete didn't trap them. It only taught them patience, taught them angles, taught them that doors don't have to be holes in the ground. Sometimes doors are the spaces between roots. Sometimes doors are the pipes under your house. Sometimes doors are the dark behind a child's eyelids when the nightlight burns out. They didn't die down there. They graduated. The cave was only the cocoon. The mountain was only the womb. And every seal humans hammer across a birth canal only makes the newborn angrier when it finally tears its way out sideways. But that wasn't the end. That was the first breath. Now hush. Something small and pale just learned the sound your floorboards make when no one's supposed to be walking on them.
Look at it. Same Red River Gorge you'd postcard home. Hikers in bright Patagonia colors, laughing too loud, taking selfies with the warning signs that replace the old no trespassing ones. They call them the cave people now, the way kids call ghosts Casper. A joke, a filter, a story to scare your girlfriend closer on the trail. They never look up at the underside of the footbridge, never see the small, wet handprints pressed there, fingers too long, climbing toward the railing like ivy that learned to walk. They never notice the prints are fresh every single morning, no matter how many rangers scrub 'em away. Out here, the air smells like pine and promise. Down there, 300 feet of limestone away, it still smells like milk gone sour and copper pennies. Two worlds stitched together by roots and water and something that used to be children. Teacher asked who she plays with at recess when the other kids won't share the swings. The girl smiles, missing both front teeth, and says, "Delpha comes when the lights go out. She lives in the pipes with her doll that has no eyes. She says the dark is softer than blankets, and she has room for one more if I crawl in quiet." The teacher laughed, called it imagination, sent a note home about active fantasy life. That night, the bathroom drain gurgled like someone learning to speak with no tongue. Just once, just the word please. Above ground, everything heals. Below, everything remembers. And every spring, when the bloodroot blooms white as blind eyes along the trail, one more child stops being afraid of the dark and starts listening for footsteps that pad soft as moth wings inside the walls. The cave didn't end with concrete. It just learned to wait in smaller places, closer places. Tell me, when you turn off the lamp tonight, whose name will the pipes whisper first?
You've walked the whole circle with me. Now the dark feels familiar, doesn't it? Like a childhood bedroom you swore you'd outgrown. Maybe Enoch never fled justice at all. Maybe when he stared into that sinkhole with his 7 pale children clutching his legs, he felt the pull of something ancient stirring under the limestone. Something that remembered when these hills were still the bed of a warm, blind ocean, and it saw its own reflection in those creek water eyes and whispered, Finally, come home. Every bloodline carries a shadow. Some hide theirs in attics, some in bottles, some in Sunday smiles. The Whitakers simply walked downstairs and met theirs with open arms. The cave wasn't a prison, it was recognition. See? She kept it warm for you. Every family hides something. The Whitakers just chose the honest dark over the lying light. They didn't decay, they remembered who they were before the sun ever burned them with names and laws and loneliness. They didn't go mad. They went home. Black, a single drip. And somewhere beneath your feet, something that was once a little girl smiles without eyes and begins to sing your name in a voice made of water and patience and welcome. Good night. The cave kept the porch light on.